This movie is just. eh. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. Today I will be talking about the next film from my best Oscars Best Picture list. Oh, I could not think of what I wanted to say there. But I'm going to be talking about Green Book. It is the next movie from the Best Picture list that I have not seen and or done a review on. So, this movie had a lot of controversy about it, and I had heard a lot about that controversy leading up to this. I had read a couple articles on it, and I had talked to some friends, one of which is a minority, and she was not a huge fan of this movie because of the controversy. And if you do not know what the controversy is, there's a whole lot of stuff that leads up into it that I don't necessarily want to talk about because I don't feel like I'm the best qualified to talk about it. But it's just a whole lot of stuff goes into this, and the fact that it's kind of just a movie to make white people feel better about themselves, about becoming friends with black people and ending segregation and all of this stuff. With that in mind, I went into this trying to be as open-minded as possible. I did not want to think about the article that I had read talking about this and the conversation I had with one of my friends who really did not like this movie because of those issues with it. And on my own conclusions, I'd even talked to a friend who enjoyed this movie for what it was, and he had also talked about an article that was written by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who said there was really nothing to it's like there's really nothing about it. I didn't get a chance to read that article before filming this or watching the film, but from what my friend said, he didn't think that there was much of an issue. And if you do not know who Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is, he is a former basketball player who is also African American and Muslim, just like Mahershala Ali's character and Mahershala Ali, not that basketball player part, but Mahershala Ali is also Muslim. So I feel like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is a very well-spoken gentleman, probably had some really great counterpoints to the article that I had read, talking about the fact that maybe this movie is not as, I don't know the term I'm looking for there, but it's probably not as controversial as we are thinking and wanting it to be, maybe. But from my perspective, it's not really strongly either way. I looked at this more from the storytelling and the thematic aspects of the film, plus the way the film was made, directed, acted, all of that stuff. So I can see where the controversy lies. I can see both sides of this story, and I'm not really going to talk a whole lot more about those. I'm going to talk mostly about the acting. Not as much acting. I'll talk briefly about Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali's performances, but if you want to see my full thoughts on their performances, there will be a video going up on my Patreon for all patrons on Saturday, breaking down all of the Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor nominees. So I'll talk a little bit more in depth about those then, but I'm also going to talk a lot about the story because there are some things that I wasn't too fond of. Let's just say that. This is probably my least favorite of all of the Oscar nominees. And then if you want to hear my full thoughts on if I think that this film will win Best Picture, I will be doing a little bit of that at the end of this video, but I will also be doing some more of that in a predictions video before the Oscars come out. So let's just kind of get down to this because I've been talking for a while. So let's start with the acting. Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali were pretty great. I mean, Mahershala Ali to me is always a really great performer. I love everything I have seen him in. And Viggo Mortensen, I can't separate him for at least in my mind, I can't separate him from Aragorn or Strider in Lord of the Rings because those movies played such a big role in my growing up and in my development as a film maker and film in my film development. The Lord of the Rings series played such a big role, and I can't quite separate Viggo Mortensen from that role, but he was still pretty good. it's just they played a lot into the Italian stereotypes and just felt kind of weird to me. Not that he played it weird, it's just I think they went way over into all of the Italian stereotypes that we normally see in any movie with Italians in it. It just felt like I was watching a almost comical, not necessarily comical, but kind of a satire of what you would see in Goodfellas or The Godfather or like Mean Streets, like any Scorsese or Coppola film, I guess. So it wasn't something that I was like, oh cool, this is new. And Mahershala Ali's character is like a lot of Mahershala Ali's characters. He always plays the same silent stoic type. I don't feel like he really got a whole lot of other anything else, really, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He didn't really step out of his normal acting boundaries, which I would like to see from him, but at the same time, I absolutely love his performance. He's always great and always spot on, always in character, and we'll see how I feel about him once I have watched all of the Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. Well, mostly Best Supporting Actor because he's nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And now let's talk a little bit about the story and the way this film is kind of happens. So I was not a huge fan of this story, mostly because it did not bring anything new to the table. I felt like I had seen everything that had happened in this before in some way, shape, or form, and I can see where a lot of people get the feeling that it's just a film to help white people feel better about themselves. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but there's been so many other films like that. I haven't seen The Help, but I have heard The Help as cited as one of these films. And I just feel like this is every other white person gets over racism kind of issue film. And the story, it's like an Odd Couple pairing story that we've seen a million times over as well. The cinematography, the editing, even like the writing, just it did not take me any place new. And I feel like there maybe could have been a lot more that they did with this, but there really wasn't anything new for me. Overall, like this is just a line straight up from my notes. I can understand why it was nominated for Best Picture, just because it is one of those kind of uppity, not uppity, but it's just one of those films that film school students really, really love. And it's a standard biopic that really didn't do anything new, which is exactly kind of what I said, but paraphrasing. So yeah, I can understand why it was nominated, and it'll probably, as much as I would not like it to win, there are so many other great pictures nominated, or so many other great films nominated for Best Picture, it might win. And that makes me kind of sad, not because of the controversy and the fact that I wasn't too fond of this story. It's more because of, like, Black Panther was nominated, and that's a great film. That's an amazing film. And it's one of the first superhero films besides Dark Knight, I believe, to get nominated. And the cast was fantastic. But, I mean, The Favorite was also really great. And what other films were nominated? Star is Born was really great. And I mean, every other film on this list is so great. The only film I don't think I have watched so far is BlacKkKlansman, but I will probably be watching that as soon as I'm done filming this video. So yeah, there's really, I've heard that one's great too. So I kind of am stuttering all over the place there, but yeah, it's just nothing special to me, even though I feel like it's probably going to end up winning, because that's what everyone's talking about. I do want to bring up one more point on the controversy before I kind of close this out, and it's something I'm going to read from my notes because it's a little bit of a conversation that Mahershala Ali's character and Viggo Mortensen's character have in this one particular scene towards the end. It is a scene in the rain, and they're having an argument after, like, they get out of the car and they start having an argument, and Dr. Shirley, which is Mahershala Ali's character, brings up the point of rich white people in the North and in the South play a black pianist to play for them to make themselves feel and seem more cultured than they really are. But then they go back to treating him like he is beneath them just because that is who they truly are. And that is just kind of the entire story encapsulated into a thing, into like this one little phrase, this monologue that Mahershala Ali's character says, or that he gives. And I feel like it's also kind of the way a lot of people perceive this movie. So I feel like that's kind of where I was like, I can understand why some people think this way, but it's also where I kind of turned and was like, it's kind of poking it at itself for doing this to make white people feel better about themselves, to make themselves feel a little bit more cultured, can't say that word, and also making white viewers feel like they've come a lot farther along in the progression of racism and segregation than they have. But in reality, this was in the 70s, so which is not that far off. It's like 50 years ago, 50 years ago, if I'm doing my math correctly, just right off the top of my head. So it's like, it's not as far off as you think, and we really honestly haven't progressed a whole lot if you have been watching the news over the past couple years. So that's probably about as much as I'm going to say on that. I will just say, as a story as a whole, I did not enjoy this as much as a lot of people probably did, but I did not hate it as much as a lot of other people probably did. It's just kind of like in the middle, nothing new for me. I probably will never watch it again. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on Green Book in the comments down below. I know I was a little bit all over the place with that, but it was really hard for me to kind of get my thoughts wrapped around this film because it was just kind of a movie. It just was there. I didn't really have any feelings on it either way. Yeah, I hope I made sense, but let me know your thoughts on Green Book and what you think is going to win. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you're in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, history, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!